Ryan Fowler will kick off for the Commodores, and Embry Peoples is deep for the Yellow Jackets. Peoples a solid return man. That's Orwin Smith. Takes it right up the middle and has a wedge right in front of him. And so Georgia Tech, after that 26-yard return, will have excellent field position.
We talked a lot there about Josh Nesbitt, much improved from last year in Paul Johnson's first season with Georgia Tech, making the right reads right now, has a chance to go over the 1,000-yard mark this year in rushing, but it's about what he does with the rest of the team, getting everybody else involved.
Last 3 games, 344 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns for Nesbitt. There's Dwyer with the first carry. The B-back, as they call it at Georgia Tech, picks up 7. Let's take a look at our Yamaha impact players. Chris?
For Georgia Tech, Jonathan Dwyer, the defending ACC Player of the Year on Tech's 5-game winning streak. He's averaging 110 yards per game. Through the air, Demarius Thomas accounts for 30 of Tech's 44 catches, leads the ACC in receiving yards per game. And Gerard Tarrant, he's a big-time punt returner for Georgia Tech. Watch out as Vanderbilt leads the NCAA in punts.
2nd down and 3, and Dwyer takes it, hammers forward for the first down, breaks a tackle, and he's in open spaces. Cuts it back, has blockers, but he's caught from behind, down around the 15-yard line. Casey Hayward saves a touchdown, 38 yards.
Kind of amazing the amount of yardage that Dwyer gains between the tackles. There you see him bounce it outside, bouncing off tacklers, and that's something that defensive coordinator Coach Fowler talked about yesterday, having to make tackles when they have the opportunity. Giving up 2- and 3-yard gains is okay, but giving up the big ones will kill them.
Preston Lyons lines up right behind Nesbitt. Gives Dwyer a breather. Haven't seen Anthony Allen carry the football yet for the Yellow Jackets, and he's a blocker right now. Again, this is just too easy. It's another first down, and that's Roddy Jones rambling forward. Chris Marr, a tackle for Vandy. They're shredding him early. That was an 11-yard pickup.
You know, we talked yesterday to Coach Johnson of the Vanderbilt team. He mentioned about how the other Coach Johnson has done such a good job of adding into that triple option that they run, multiple sets, and there you saw the toss sweep, a relatively new addition to Paul Johnson's repertoire.
Starting lineups are at the top of the screen above the scoreboard. 1st and goal. And that's Lyons, the backup B-back, bulling forward. He somehow manages 1 yard right into the teeth of that Vandy defense. Boys, we talked to Bobby Johnson yesterday about Paul Johnson. He didn't use the word genius, but he said everything else. What this guy does with this offense, Bobby Johnson just couldn't have been more complimentary.
A lot of respect there, and I think that these guys have a long relationship. We'll get into that as the game progresses.
2nd and goal. Double tight end set. There's the pitch back. Good pursuit there by the Vandy defense. Roddy Jones goes down. Broderick Stewart leads the charge for the Commodores along with Smotherman. Now it's a 1-yard loss. Bobby Johnson in his 8th season at Vandy doesn't change expression too often. His lineups are at the top of the screen. Hoping for an upset tonight of the 11th ranked Yellow Jackets, which would certainly turn this season around for Vanderbilt. Dwyer back in there, you see 21 behind Nesbitt. Nesbitt keeps it himself and rambles in for a 4-yard touchdown. Just like that, Yellow Jackets on the board.
Doug, that's what makes him so dangerous right there. Nesbitt with a little step back, gets the angle on the end and cuts it up inside. Great decision making by the quarterback for Georgia Tech.
He now has 12 rushing touchdowns this season. He's putting up huge numbers as Scott Blair boots the extra point. He has become so proficient, Chris, at running this offense. He could have pitched to Dwyer, but he kept it himself.
kind of amazing how well he's improved, and you can tell this offense is playing at a very high level because of his understanding.
They have jumped on opponents in a big way early on. Now 86-31 in the first quarter. As you look at Nesbitt, again 12 rushing touchdowns. And Chris, that was a 6-play, 60-yard march. Just took over 3 minutes.
Yeah, this offense, the triple option, can do it slow and methodically. It can do it with big plays. But in the end, what they're doing most of the time is scoring touchdowns and doing it early. Vanderbilt did not want to get in a hole in this game, and they find themselves down 7-0.
Scott Blair will kick off for the Yellow Jackets, and Warren Norman, who has turned into one of the most dynamic return men in the country. 2 kickoff returns already, a 99-yarder last week against South Carolina. First-year player for the Commodores. Lots of Yellow Jacket supporters in attendance tonight. The pooch kick, keeping it out of Norman's hands. And that's Chris Johnson. Just a 6-yard return as we look at Larry Smith, the young man from Prattville, Alabama, who has had his moments, Chris Doring, but hasn't led them to any victory so far in the Southeastern Conference.
The coaches are very high on this kid. He's a sophomore. He's still learning, much like a lot of the rest of this offense. A lot of youth out there, but they feel like he's played his best 2 ball games against South Carolina and Georgia in the last couple of weeks. We'll see if he can build on that tonight.
It's important for the Commodores to control the football now for a few minutes at least, to take a little pressure off that defensive unit. Again, right up the middle. Let's take a look at tonight's Impact Players, brought to you by Yamaha Motorcycles and ATVs. Rediscover why you ride.
You talked about Warren Norman, obviously a big player on offense, big player in the kick return game as well. Chris Marv has to play big at the middle linebacker position, and Broderick Stewart, tall athletic end, has to play that triple option tough tonight.
2nd and 5. Udamuma takes it for a Commodores first down. Cedric Griffin on the stop, a 6-yard pickup.
Kind of interesting, Doug. You talk about time of possession, but the coaching staff still wants to go with the no-huddle offense. They're not going to change what they do. They feel like they need to be aggressive, get to the line of scrimmage, get a play called, and kind of try to keep that defense off balance.
Lineups at the top of your screen, above the scoreboard. Back to the ground game, the freshman, Warren Norman. It's a nice surge from that offensive line on the right side. Mackin on the stop for Georgia Tech.
Offensive line has been a little questionable so far this year. That was one of the strengths, with 6 guys returning from last year that had experience. They have not done a good job. The coaching staff has challenged those guys to play better.
Smith from the shotgun shows off that rifle arm. That's another first down. In fact, that's Alex Washington in the receiving end. He jumped forward for an extra 3 yards, picks up 16.
One thing that this offense has tried to do lately is get quick passes, get him some confidence early. They're moving the pocket an awful lot. Larry Smith is very good when he's on the move. There you saw a very accurate pass for a completion in a big game.
Here's the reverse. Looking to pass the football. No, he'll run it. That's Jamie Graham breaking free and running out of bounds at the 15-yard line.
Doug, that's just players making plays right there. They had the reverse pass set up, double covered deep on the receiver. And what you saw was the guy make a good decision, turned it up, and then picked up a big block on the edge to break him free. Jamie Graham just back from playing defense. He's been over there on that side of the ball. They brought him back to offense where he played last year. Needs some help at the receiver position.
21-yard pickup, 1st and 10. Back to Norman, again over that right side. Picks up 5 more. Georgia Tech defensive starters at the top of the screen. And Derek Morgan is the all-star, the All-American candidate, wears number 91 at defensive end. Ibunawe very active also on the other side of that defensive line. Norman, oh boy, runs into a stone wall. That's big number 94, Zan Cross.
Doug, this is where Vanderbilt has struggled this year. They were very good, very efficient last year in the red zone. This year, 12th in the SEC in red zone efficiency, only scoring 18 of 28 trips down there. Last week against South Carolina, they had 2 shots inside the red zone, only came away with 3 points. And when you're talking about games you're losing 14-10, you got to get some points when you get down there.
This is a big play. This is where they bog down. 3rd and 5 in the red zone. They get a first down. They get a touchdown. Warren Norman on the receiving end. And just like that, the Commodores answer.
Warren Norman, great out of the backfield. The coaches bragged about his hands. This is a great little Texas route. What you see is the running back coming out of the backfield, selling the flat, and then an arrow route back underneath. Does a good job of catching it and getting into the end zone for the touchdown.
Fowler on for the extra point. We're all tied up in Nashville. Georgia Tech so impressive on their opening drive. Vanderbilt impressive in their own right. That just might be their most impressive offensive drive of the season. So Vandy answers in a big way, an 8-play, 71-yard march that takes just under 3 minutes. And the first touchdown reception of the year for Warren Norman. A lot of action so far, Chris Doring.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets came out, got a big play from Dwyer, and then the touchdown from Nesbitt. But the thing that impressed me the most was Vanderbilt coming back with a big drive of their own. I thought Larry Smith did a good job of mixing things up, threw the ball well on the little sprint out, and then of course the touchdown there to Warren Norman to even things up.
Ryan Fowler on to kickoff again for the Commodores, his second boot. Smith and Peebles are deep for the Yellow Jackets. 8-play, 71-yard drives have not been a regular happening for Vanderbilt this season. But that looked awfully good. Orwin Smith fields it around the 6. Flag comes flying in from behind. He drags 2 Vandy tacklers with him to the 27 as we'll check the flag. That'll go against Georgia Tech. ACC officiating crew, Jeff Flanagan, our referee.
Back, number 36, receiving team. Penalty half the distance, free to go from the spot of the foul.
Jeff's worked a lot of big games in the ACC. Tonight's game being brought to you in crystal clear high definition right here on CSS. Visit CSSSports.com to see if you could be watching this and other live SEC football games in high def for the remainder of the season. Look at Paul Johnson, likes his quarterback. Both Nesbitt and Smith are physical specimens. They are put together awfully well. Nesbitt, a solid 6'1", 220 pounds. Hard to bring down. Good blocking, Roddy Jones. We got a nice push in the outside from Anthony Allen. Sean Richardson on the stop for the Commodores, but a 22-yard pickup.
Doug, you mentioned Anthony Allen with the block down the field there. That's one thing that this team does well. They're very unselfish from the rest of the backs to the receivers. Do a good job of opening up running lanes for their fellow players.
As you look at those rushing numbers, close to 300 yards a game on the ground. Only Nevada is better in that department. Once again, that crossing in the backfield, that's Peebles picking up 6. Brett Trice on the stop for Vandy.
Stephen Stone got in on the play there. It's nice to see him back. When we came to the Western Carolina game earlier in the year, he had just been injured, hurt his foot. He's the leader on that defense, a senior that had made 27 consecutive starts prior to injuring his foot, so it's nice to see him back out there as well.
2nd and 4 for Georgia Tech. This is exactly what they want to do. Positive yards, 5 or more on first down, really sets up this offense. Great fake to Dwyer. The pitch back to Wright. And Vanderbilt strung it out.
That's exactly what you want to do against the triple option. Everybody has to go ahead and play their assignment. All right, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. in crashes on the pitch man. They force the pitch out wide, and then Casey Howard comes up to make the stop.
You have to tackle well to stop this Georgia Tech offense. As we've watched so much tape this week, Chris, so many broken tackles, missed tackles by the opponents. Nesbitt keeps it himself, and it'll bring up 4th down. 52% conversion rate this season on 3rd down, and they were stymied.
The thing that Coach Fowler, the defensive coordinator, talked to us about yesterday is his defense being aware that it's not just about the first 3 downs with Georgia Tech's offense. They like to go for it on 4th down. They're converting at a very, very high rate, and it looks like they're going to go for it here as well.
Commodores defense urging this crowd to make some noise. This would be a heck of a stop. That's what they've done this season. 73% on 4th down. They need about 1.5 yards. Nesbitt keeps it himself, and it really depends on the mark. I think he could be short. TJ Greenstone was right there to jump on top of him. They're going to bring out the chains. This would be the first big momentum shift of the game if they get the spot.
Hard to believe he didn't get it here. He looked for the bubble, but I think he got tripped up by his own men as they were trying to block down on the sneak by the quarterback. Looked like he had some room there, but I think you're right, Doug. I think he could be short.
They're stretching the chains, and it is a 1st down. They got a good spot.
Not by much.
It was close. Andy defense playing tough on this drive. That first drive, they were back on their heels. Nesbitt has gotten so comfortable running this offense of Paul Johnson, who calls all the plays. A late pitch to Jones. He gets knocked out of bounds by Chris Marv. That was an 8-yard pickup.
It's a little freeze option there. Fake like they're going to go one way. It allows the offensive lineman to work up, get a good angle on the linebackers, and a big 1st down gain. That's one thing the coaches talked about for Georgia Tech. Positive yards on 1st down, staying ahead of the chains. You very rarely see negative plays from this Georgia Tech offense.
2nd down. Just getting back to the line of scrimmage was Marcus Wright. Kadri was right there to stand him up.
Doug, penetration is the enemy of the triple option. If you're going to mess with the mesh points, you got to get penetration. Theron Kadri did a good job of knifing up inside there, creating a little jumbled up situation. And it's 3rd down now for Georgia Tech.
But again, they'll go for it on 4th down. You know they will. 3rd and 4. First pass of the night for Nesbitt on the outside, and that gets batted down. Nice defensive play by Eddie Foster on the outside.
That's a great play by the true freshman. Made his first start last week. Coach Johnson speaks very highly of this young kid. Almost a completion. He comes in, gets a hand on the ball. And again, this guy was playing high school football last year. Quite a transition into the SEC.
Yeah, Tyler Melton on the outside at wide receiver. Stephen Hill is back in Atlanta. He was not feeling well, did not make the trip. So Melton on the opposite side. First punt of the night for Georgia Tech. Chandler Anderson sends a high one. Fielded down at the 11 by Alex Washington. That was a 41-yard boot. No return. So the Vanderbilt defense holds strong on Halloween. Looking to climb into the top 10 with a win tonight and perhaps a loss by some of those other teams, Oregon or USC, maybe Oklahoma State. Opening drive.
Quick first quarter start for Georgia Tech. Right down the field with Nesbitt capping it off for the touchdown. But again, Vanderbilt did something they haven't done a lot this year, and that's answer with another touchdown. Good quick scoring drive with the touchdown pass to Warren Norman to tie it up.
the Vandy defense stops Georgia Tech. Boy, Larry Smith does have a powerful right arm, doesn't he?
He can certainly spin it, and that's something the coaching staff talked an awful lot about, that arm strength. But what they've done a lot here lately is put him in situations where they're asking the line to block for longer periods of time. He's taken a lot of hits. So this offense has tried to simplify.
Holding penalty on Thomas Welsh. So it's half the distance to the goal line. Paul Johnson will take it. Bring up 1st and 15. Smith keeps it himself, turns it on, 5th gear, and pulled up, holding his hamstring. He runs out of bounds around the 41-yard line, and he is down. That left hammy started yanking on him after a 35-yard pickup.
This is one of the favorite plays that you'll see this Vanderbilt offense run. The zone read, they block it zone front side, they leave the end backside. And Larry Smith's job is to read whether that backside end is going to crash on the running back or whether he can keep it down the sideline as he did right there. Good read by the quarterback. We'll see if that hamstring is all right.
Mackenzie Adams, the backup quarterback, is already on the field. Getting things together with his offensive line. He's the relief pitcher, the senior from Tulsa, Oklahoma, a heck of an athlete in high school and has had his moments of glory here at Vandy. That's a shame for Smith.
And right as he's going out of bounds like there, looked like he tried to stop. Sometimes it's not about the stride, but it's when you break that stride a little bit. Larry Smith certainly has one advantage, and that's having a good backup. Mackenzie Adams with a lot of experience here at Vanderbilt. The senior has started a bunch of big games, and these guys have an awful lot of confidence in him. So they won't change what they do all that much with Mackenzie Adams at quarterback.
They help Larry Smith to his feet, and he's going to need some assistance getting back over to the Vanderbilt sideline. Mackenzie Adams, though, is an experienced backup. Started 5 big games last season for Vandy. Smith took over in the bowl game, the Music City Bowl. As we look back at last season, that bowl-winning season for Vandy, 7 victories, 4 in the Southeastern Conference. 4 weeks in the top 25 as they got off to that 5-0 start.
Mackenzie Adams a big part of that, starting a number of those games for the Commodores last year as they opened the season. Struggled a little bit towards the end, and that's when they decided to make the quarterback change. Larry Smith did a good job in that Music City Bowl victory over Boston College.
Larry Smith out of Prattville, Alabama, a powerhouse high school football program in that part of Central Alabama, down near Montgomery, Prattville. Once again, the top-ranked 6A program in the state, and now an Oklahoma kid takes over. Mackenzie Adams comes right out of the gate, throwing for a first down. That's a heck of a way to get off the bench, huh? Uma on the receiving end for 10 yards.
How about the confidence level that they have in Mackenzie Adams? Like you said, they don't just come out and hand the ball off, give an opportunity to throw the ball down the field. Nice job by Uma of finding that soft spot in the zone, picking up the first down, moving the chains, keeping that defense off the field.
It is a luxury to have a backup quarterback with as much experience as Bobby Johnson does in Mackenzie Adams. Derek Morgan now limps to the sidelines for Georgia Tech as he gets dinged up.
Yeah, it takes a very special player to be a backup quarterback. You have to come in cold. You don't get the pre-game like you do as a starter. So we'll see if Mackenzie Adams can stay hot here as he did in the first play. 1st and 10,
he lost the handle that time. Tried to pull it out, and Georgia Tech says they have it.
That's the problem you run into when you're the backup quarterback working with the first unit. You don't get a lot of reps with those guys, and sometimes the timing's off a little bit.
Longo stole it away from Mackenzie Adams in the bottom of the pile, but the whistle blew, so it is Commodores football.
This is another one of those read plays. Quarterback puts it in there, and it's his job to pull it out. The running back doesn't know whether or not he's going to receive the ball until the quarterback lets it go.
Second down, Adams. Looks for Uma on the outside, and he was covered by Morgan Burnett. That's what he did last season, Chris. Had those 8 picks to go with 5 touchdowns, but proved he was capable in some big games.
He's a guy that played in all 12 games last year for the Commodores, but I think what maybe not so much his physical gifts is what makes him so appealing as a quarterback, because his grit. The guy goes out there and loves to compete, and his teammates rally around that.
It's third down and 13. Adams. Zach Stacy turning on the Jets. Tripped up inside the 5-yard line, but Gerard Tarrant, that is a 46-yard pickup.
Third down, Georgia Tech dials up the blitz. Mackenzie Adams sees it and dumps it off, and then a great play by Zach Stacy in the open field. You got to make one guy miss against the blitz, and he's off to the races.
Talk about big third down conversions. That was 3rd and 13.
Vanderbilt has not been very good on third down.
And that's whistle dead right before the snap. They're reviewing the last play.
What are they reviewing? Where he stepped out of bounds? Not a lot to review there with that one.
It's got to be where the ball was placed as he was tackled. Clean catch, and now watch him as he sprints down the sidelines to see if he stepped out of bounds. So far, so good. Right there, perhaps.
Close.
That's what they're reviewing right there. Did he step on the chalk?
The important thing is where they placed it on the field. As we know, you have to have indisputable visual evidence to overturn the call. And I don't know if you can see that in that look right there.
Side judge Eddie Bonet was right there. Appeared to have a bird's eye view. And our angle, really, you couldn't tell if the foot was on the line or not. Let's take a closer look from a different angle. And again, these angles you're watching is what they're watching in the review booth.
Again, it has to be that indisputable visual evidence to overturn what the call was on the field. And again, I don't think you get an opportunity to get a very good look at whether or not he stepped out of bounds. But I tell you what, Doug, the thing that I am very impressed with is this Vanderbilt offense. The coaching staff talked about them gaining confidence, but I certainly wasn't buying it prior to this first quarter tonight.
That's impossible to tell. He was close, but you just can't tell if he was on the line. And again, the side judge had the bird's eye view.
The review was for whether the runner stepped out of bounds at the 16-yard line. The runner did not. The ruling on the field stands. First down.
So the ruling on the field stands. He did not step out of bounds at the 10-yard line. So once again, it's 1st and goal from the 5. Make it the 4-yard line. Not the 4.5 as you look at Adams.
Doug, I think that Bobby Johnson thought that they were going to challenge that play. You saw Mackenzie Adams hurry to the line to try to get the snap off.
Right up the middle to Zach Stacy. Picks up 1. Again, Adams looks to the sidelines. Cross makes another stop for Georgia Tech.
Another true freshman on that Georgia Tech defense. Coaching staff talked about what a good job that as on Cross has done to this point in his progression. A lot of young guys that have had to play by necessity for Georgia Tech.
Sprinting to that corner, and it is a touchdown for Zach Stacy.
What a pair of freshmen this Vanderbilt offense has there at the running back position. You saw Warren Norman score earlier, and his classmate Zach Stacy gets to the edge. He's an explosive, powerful runner, but has the speed to outrun guys as well. You saw him get to the corner and extend the football for the touchdown to put Vanderbilt up 14-7.
Second rushing touchdown of the season for Zach Stacy. Ryan Fowler gives the Commodores a 14-7 lead over the 11th ranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Stacy had that big reception for 46 yards and then would score the touchdown again. Great blocking.
Yeah, good blocking by the Vanderbilt offensive line there and getting the edge for Zach Stacy. But again, the impressive thing that I like about these guys is they catch the ball well out of the backfield and they run very well. In addition to that, I think these guys are going to be pretty good as they get a little bit older.
The Z-Man is what they call Zach Stacy, one of several freshmen playing this season, getting a lot of experience for Vandy. And one of the reasons when you talk to Bobby Johnson, and we spoke to Charlie Fisher yesterday, Jimmy Kaiser we've spoken to, they're excited about the future.
Yeah, they're very excited about the future. They have, again, had to play a lot of young guys, maybe not by choice, but at baptism by fire is only going to help them in the future.
Zach Stacy, his younger brother Justin, has Down syndrome, and he comes to all the games, and Zach and his younger bro are so close. Just one of many terrific stories on this Vanderbilt team. And he's putting together a solid season along with Warren Norman. Quite a 1-2 punch, both true freshmen. Fowler kicks off again for Vandy, a short kick, fielded at the 15 by Owen Smith. And again, that wedge is formed by Georgia Tech, a 15-yard return. They take the wedge pretty seriously as you watch their kickoff return. Those guys hang tough and really plow forward.
It takes a special guy to play that wedge position. That was never my strong suit, Doug. I try to stay away from that.
Watched the Georgia Tech Virginia replay the other night on CSS as I was doing homework for this game. Completed pass on the outside, and Demarius Thomas, what a weapon. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and sometimes they forget about him.
That's our impact player at the receiver position, Demarius Thomas. Because of the triple option, they got to play man coverage on him so often. He leads the ACC in yards per catch and yards per game, and that's why right there he can make guys miss. He's big and strong, uses the stiff arm well. And again, they don't throw the ball to him an awful lot, but very effective when they do.
26-yard pickup. It appeared that he might have stepped out of bounds, and they're going to review that.
Good eye there, partner.
I'm telling you, I think he did. That looked a little more out of bounds than the play previously from Zach Stacy. Boy, they line him up so wide to the sidelines, Chris, almost to hide him.
Well, they do it for running purposes, to not allow the support guy to be right in there to make the tackle on the pitch. But what it does is that man coverage out there, when you're as athletic as Demarius Thomas is, you have an opportunity to go ahead and make one guy miss and pick up big yardage. But I think you're right there when you look at that replay, Doug. I think he stepped out of bounds a little bit further back, and they'll probably overturn that call.
Well, he definitely stepped out of bounds, I think about 3 yards shy, but the key is, did he step out of bounds right there?
Looks like it.
At the 44. I think he stepped out of bounds twice. And then right at the end of the run when they grabbed him, he did step out of bounds again.
Don't criticize the officials. That's the theme this week. Even though this is the ACC officiating crew, we're not going to criticize any officials tonight.
Mike Slive, commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, was given total autonomy by the presidents of the Southeastern Conference yesterday. He can now fine or suspend any coach in the Southeastern Conference for verbally complaining about calls in games.
Who's the first guy to get fined or suspended in your mind?
Well, it could possibly be a gentleman on the other side of the state here.
Probably if I had to place a wager on that, I would probably put my money on Lane Kiffin.
Now, Chris, watch this close. The right foot, did he step out of bounds there?
I think he stepped out of bounds. I think they're looking at the clock to figure out when they need to set the clock back to.
And definitely there. So a matter of, did he step out about 15 yards before that? Because we know with the left foot, he did about 4 yards shy of where the football is right now. And you're right, Chris. Jeff Flanagan is writing down the yard line. Right there at the 48.5.
Pretty amazing, Demaryius Thomas. You know, in this offense, he blocks. But of the 41 completions that Georgia Tech has, 33 of them coming into tonight have gone to Demaryius Thomas. And that's what makes him, again, so dangerous. You lull everybody to sleep with the triple option, but you got to be aware of the big guy outside. He's a Biletnikoff one of the last 10, I guess, right?
Semifinalist, right?
Yeah, semifinalist at this point in time. Pretty good company with him as well.
The runner stepped out of bounds at the 48.5-yard line. He did make the line of gain, so it is a first down.
So the first time he stepped out of bounds, he didn't. The second time he did. It's still a first down, but they'll move the ball back to the 48.5, so that moves it back about 5 or 6 yards. It was a 26-yard reception, and now it's a 21-yard reception. There's plays of 15 or more yards.
Come to expect that a little bit from Georgia Tech. Not a lot of character for Vanderbilt. Surprising that they've had so much success with the big plays early this evening.
So 2 big delays in this first quarter as they go to the replay booth. Setting up the pitch. Oh, that's pretty. That is really pretty. Another big gain by Marcus Wright. Picks up 8.
The important thing when you're running the option is for the quarterback to eat up the ground between the guy that's defending the quarterback. He does a good job of making the end commit before pitching it. And Wright picks up a big gain to set up second and short.
Joseph Gilbert, the left guard, you see big number 70, really did a nice job pulling on that play, and then the chop block. Almost a Superman block, causing the Vandy defender to jump over him. Second and short. Nesbitt keeps it himself for what appears to be a first down, and it is.
It's a little different play than the normal triple option. What they do is they fake the dive, and then he follows Dwyer up into the hole to pick up the first down.
Again, this undersized Georgia Tech offensive line, they really hustle, and if you watch a lot of tape, I mean, they get after it, but in talking to Paul Johnson, he told us, he said, "You want me to be honest?" We said, "Yeah." He goes, "They need to get better."
Yeah, they have some improving to do, but pretty impressive to this point.
Another pass, wide open to Embry Peoples, and he just couldn't hang on.
Well thrown ball there. People should have definitely hung on to that one. Coaching staff talked about how well Nesbitt throws the football. I think people maybe sleep on his throwing ability. I would question Embry Peoples' catching skills right there, though, with the way that one was attempted to be caught.
Third pass of the night, that last attempt that goes incomplete, so it's 2nd and 10. A rare 2nd and long for Georgia Tech, especially amidst this 5-game winning streak. Or defense well by Vandy. Marcus Wright brought down by Chris Marv. Marv leads this team in tackles.
Chris Marv is a guy that has to play big as that middle linebacker position against this triple option. Did a good job of stringing it out. And again, great discipline there. You see the Vanderbilt defense playing assignment sound against that triple option. You can only do what your assignment is. Let the other guys trust that they'll be in the right position, and they were.
Nesbitt, his 4th pass of the night. Going high is Demarius Thomas, pulling that down. Myron Lewis is right there on him, but it appears to be another first down. And that's the end of the first quarter. A lot of action. Vanderbilt surprising the 11th ranked team in the country, but the Yellow Jackets on the march as we get ready for the second quarter. And thank goodness I got out here tonight. Cold weather has moved in. Kind of chilly, but it certainly feels like football weather. Georgia Tech back in the attack. Dwyer, haven't called his name since early in the first quarter, picks up 2. And if you just dialed us in, Georgia Tech took that opening drive, and Chris, they looked awfully tough.
Yeah, Jonathan Dwyer had a big run to set up this Josh Nesbitt touchdown, but Vanderbilt answered right back with a touchdown of their own. Nice pass from Larry Smith to Warren Norman to even things up, and then the other freshman, Zach Stacy, gets to the edge. Vanderbilt leads 14-7.
Yellow Jackets looking to answer. Again, Dwyer moves forward for 4 more. First half numbers, rushing yards in favor of Georgia Tech, as you might expect, but look at the first downs.
They're very impressive for the balance that Vanderbilt had in that first quarter. That's something the coaching staff wants to try to stay at the 50-50 balance. Obviously, it's working to this point in this football game.
3rd down and 4. Nesbitt keeps it himself. Falls over his own blocker. Phil Smith picked up 11.
That's what makes Nesbitt so dangerous at that quarterback position. Can turn it up and then make people miss. Vanderbilt has got to do a better job of making the tackle after first contact. They can't afford to give up those extra yards. Georgia Tech now inside the 10-yard line.
Look at those numbers the last 3 games as Georgia Tech has rolled up big victories, putting them in control to win their division in the ACC as Dwyer gets thrown forward. 9-yard pickup. Brent Trice flipped him over for Vandy. Hard to stop these guys.
Pretty amazing that Jonathan Dwyer has put up the kind of numbers he has the last 2 years, primarily running that little dive right there. You don't see him getting many of the sweeps or getting any of the carries outside of the tackles. Does it all within about a 3-yard space side to side of the center.
Nesbitt falls forward very close to the goal line. No signal, so he's just shy. That's about 1.5 feet away from the goal line.
Vanderbilt very good last year in red zone defense, but again, part of their problem this season is that they have not been quite as efficient in keeping teams out of the end zone. Tough task here as Georgia Tech faces a 3rd and about 1 foot.
Timeout, Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech. Again, as we have gotten to know Paul Johnson and talked about his football team and looked at his bio, it's pretty interesting wherever he's been. Of course, at Georgia Southern, led them to national championships, not only as the head coach, but also as the offensive coordinator when he worked for the legendary Eric Russell. Then went to Hawaii and proved that he can be a coordinator, Chris, in a passing offense, but then came back with Georgia Southern, and then the rest is history with Navy and now Georgia Tech.
Yeah, had a great run with Navy and then with Georgia Tech now. I think this is a perfect offense for the Georgia Tech fans. They're really starting to get behind this triple option.
Big hire as he replaced Chan Gailey, and then they beat Georgia finally last season.
That's the most important thing
yeah,
right there.
Absolutely. They did go to the Peach Bowl and played LSU, and LSU shot through the gaps and exposed that offensive line. But now here we are in the 2nd season. The offense is just that much more proficient.
It's a work in progress. They'll continue to recruit guys for this offense.
12th play of the drive, and it's a touchdown. Nesbitt, his second touchdown of the night.
Little quarterback sneak like they ran earlier on 4th down in the first quarter. You see he finds that bubble again. This time he doesn't get tripped up by his offensive line and is able to get in there for his second touchdown of the evening.
Scott Blair looking to tie this game in the second quarter. And he does. Another an impressive march, 12-play drive. Took over 5 minutes, and Georgia Tech ties it up. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. Vandy looking for their second win at home this season against the 11th-ranked Yellow Jackets. I'm Doug Bell alongside Chris Doring, the man who caught all those touchdown passes from Danny Werfel back when they were winning a national championship back in 1996. Storyline pretty simple. Vandy doing a nice job hanging in there, Chris.
Yeah, I think we were a little surprised tonight at the efficiency that they've had on offense. They've struggled up until tonight in the red zone and on 3rd down, but 2 of 2 on 3rd downs and keeping drives alive, and 2 of 2 in the red zone. We'll see if they can continue that throughout the rest of the game.
Paul Johnson doesn't seem too concerned, drinking some Gatorade, and Blair the high short kick to Warren Norman. Norman the 99-yard return last week. He's so dangerous, and Blair the kicker stops him after a 24-yard return.
Warren Norman leads the SEC in all-purpose yards heading into the game tonight. We've seen him do it at the running back position, and last week against South Carolina he returned one for a touchdown as well. He's averaging 158 yards of all-purpose yards. Again, coming into this evening, been a big contributor to this point as well.
Boy, Scott Blair, I'm not sure he didn't take more punishment making that tackle. Certainly didn't dish out a lot there. We'll get some razzing as they watch that tape next week. Good hustle by the kicker. Mackenzie Adams in there at quarterback. Completes another pass, this one to Alex Washington. Larry Smith left it in the first quarter with a hamstring injury.
Nice job by the tight end Barden out there getting a block to spring Washington for the 5-yard gain.
On 2nd and 5, it's Norman stretching for a gain of 1. Derek Morgan got in there for the stop, big number 91.
Derek Morgan, one of those holdovers from the defensive line last year. A couple of those guys playing at the next level right now. Derek Morgan will certainly have the opportunity to be there soon as well.
Lombardi and Ted Hendricks Award finalists. Big Derek Morgan talking to Dave Womack, his defensive coordinator this week. Womack loves the kid. Really plays with a lot of energy. Adams overshoots his tight end, Brandon Barden. So we'll bring up 4th down. Adams takes that helmet off. Good look at the young man from Tulsa who does have a nice arm. Just overshot his tight end that time. So Brett Upson will punt for the first time tonight. Beautiful kick. Fair catch called for right outside the 10-yard line. That was a 45-yard boot, and Tarrant puts that hand up in the air. Tarrant leads the ACC in punt return average, almost 20 yards a return, so a couple of dangerous return men tonight. Time of possession, we knew that was a big key coming in, Chris.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech offense does a good job of moving the chains, holding on to the ball and scoring touchdowns. And just as importantly as it is for Vanderbilt's defense to stop Georgia Tech's offense, it's important for Vanderbilt's offense to stop Georgia Tech's offense. They didn't do a very good job right there. 3 and outs is something that'll put this Vandy defense back on the field without giving them a lot of rest, and that's what makes Georgia Tech so dangerous.
That's Dwyer right up the pike. Another big first down gain, 7 yards. since the Miami loss on that Thursday night. Look at what they've done, Chris. So impressive.
Yeah, you're talking about 2 games with over 40 minutes of possession there. You and I were at that Mississippi State game, and they do a very good job of moving the chains, not having negative plays, not putting themselves in 3rd and long situations.
Again, you see big splits on the offensive line. Dwyer goes forward. Sometimes they're 3 feet, and as Paul Johnson told us as we watched tape, he said sometimes we stretch it to 6 feet, which is almost unheard of.
It does a good job of giving the offensive linemen some angles. You know, you talk about the triple option, that veer blocking, trying to get an edge, blocking down and leaving that end to have to make a read on the dive play and on the pitch.
Those splits, they get tight only when they're inside the 5-yard line. They really like to open those lanes. Nesbitt wide open, and tripped up was Embry Peoples. 30-yard pickup.
You talked about those splits, wide offensive line splits. You don't see passing teams line up like this, but in this triple option offense, they have to respect the dive fake, and then Nesbitt does a good job of making a play on the run. Embry Peoples comes back after that drop earlier to answer with a big play for Georgia Tech.
First down in Vandy territory now. Nesbitt keeps it himself, puts that shoulder down, and gets a first down.
It's a big, strong guy right there, 6'1", 215. Nesbitt will follow the dive up in there. You don't want to get in front of that guy. He's a very athletic player, but will lower the shoulder, not afraid of contact. Much like Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow ran the ball pretty effectively for the Gators today.
And took some hits. Nesbitt trying to shake off, getting hit right in the thigh. Sometimes those thigh pads don't protect you enough.
Thigh pads really don't do anything for you. When you get a helmet on that thigh, it's not going to do much. You get a little deep thigh bruise can certainly hurt on a cold evening like this as well.
So it'll be 3rd down. Boy, that is so close. Jeff Flanagan, he got down on the ground just like Camilo Bijegas, the golfer, when he reads a putt. I mean, he wanted to get a bird's eye view, and he determined he was just about maybe an inch shot.
You flexible enough to do that?
Used to be.
You ever try to get down there reading putts out like Camilo?
Used to be. Now I take the advice of a caddy. Well, this is just about an inch away. And Dwyer moves forward for the first down. Picks up 4. Let's check out the SEC scoreboard from earlier today. That was a wild one on the Plains as Auburn knocks off Ole Miss, and the Gators wallop Georgia as Georgia came out for the first time in history in black helmets.
That didn't look very good today. I didn't like that. I think Georgia needs to go with the traditional reds next time.
And Kentucky leads Mississippi State. A big one for the Cats at Commonwealth Stadium tonight, and Tennessee shutting out Steve Spurrier in South Carolina. Nesbitt going off that arm to a wide open Demarius Thomas, 35-yard strike.
He's the big threat in the passing game for this Georgia Tech offense. Again, they don't like to throw the ball an awful lot, but when they do, he's usually on the receiving end. Myron Lewis was on the coverage there. Not a great thrown pass by Josh Nesbitt, but a good adjustment by Demarius Thomas. He was supposed to be looking over that outside shoulder for the corner throw, made a good adjustment. And again, Myron Lewis has been beaten on some plays deep lately.
And the extra point by Scott Blair is good. And Georgia Tech has seized control of this game, at least for the moment. It's bombs away.
Thomas has 3 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. This guy's nickname is Bebe, but he is a grown man.
Calvin Johnson won the Blitnikoff Award back in '06 at Georgia Tech, and that trophy could be coming back to Georgia Tech this year. Warren Norman, dangerous return man. A flag comes in at the end of that play. That's usually in the area of a hold or a block in the back. That's likely to send Vanderbilt backwards. That's what the call is.
47, 10 yards from the end of the run. First down.
We told you about the Blitnikoff Award. Here are the finalists and some big names when you look at Golden Tate of Notre Dame and Jordan Shipley of Texas, A.J. Green of Georgia, Marshawn Gilliard of Cincinnati having a big year. But where does Thomas fall in the mix in your mind, Chris?
I think Thomas is maybe as talented as those guys, but he doesn't get the opportunities that guys like A.J. Green and Jordan Shipley do. So I'm not sure if he'll have an opportunity to win it this year or not, but certainly a great player.
Zach Stacy, their tailback behind Adams, who's forced to throw early to Uma, and that bounces. Pressure by Cedric Griffin.
You saw Golden Tate's name on that list. His brother actually plays for this Vanderbilt team. Wesley Tate is a freshman running back, came in with Warren Norman and Zach Stacy. We'll see him next year as they're trying to redshirt that young man, but Golden Tate, a great receiver for Notre Dame.
Going nowhere is Norman as Derek Morgan stops Stacy. Stacy carried it that time. As you look at the Georgia Tech folks,
it's a very dangerous time in the game for Vanderbilt. Georgia Tech 2 back-to-back touchdowns. Vanderbilt went 3 and out last possession, 3rd and long here. They need to get a first down to allow their defense to get some rest on the sidelines.
Yeah, this is big, 3rd and 10. I agree with you, Chris. They need a first down. And they get one. Boy, diving forward was Brandon Barden. He knew where the sticks were, and he got it. That's an 11-yard pickup.
Nice catch. As Mackenzie Adams kind of looks back to one of his 3rd or 4th options, Barden did a good job of knowing where the first down sticks were and reaching and extending to pick it up.
Well, you keep Georgia Tech's offense off the field and give your defense a chance to get some oxygen in the sidelines. A flag down on the play. Zach Stacy, another positive game, but that's likely to come back. That's an illegal formation. 5 men were in the backfield, so I think that wide receiver wasn't far enough up on the line of scrimmage.
As a wide receiver, the first thing you do when you get to the line is check with that official to make sure if you're supposed to be on the line of scrimmage that they consider you being on the ball. That's the kind of mistakes that Vanderbilt cannot afford to make, putting themselves in long down and distance situations.
So 1st and 15 for Mackenzie Adams in relief of Larry Smith, who went out with a hamstring pull. Adams loses the football, and Georgia Tech pounces on it. That's Cross coming up with a fumble. Logan Wells stripped Adams. Nizon Cross was right there. Boy, Cross has had a nice game so far.
Yeah, Cross has done a good job, but Logan Wells makes a nice swipe at the football. Not very good ball security by Mackenzie Adams. As a runner, when you're getting up in the mix, you got to tuck the ball away. This is not what Vanderbilt can afford to do when you're going against an offense that's proficient like this Georgia Tech offense is.
Cross all smiles on the sidelines as Josh Nesbitt back at it. That's Dwyer right up the middle. A big man, 235 pounds from Marietta, hard to bring down. A perfect offense for Dwyer. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, it's a great fit for Dwyer, and we talked to Paul Johnson earlier in the season. He was a little disappointed with some of the effort level that Dwyer was giving, but since that Miami game, Dwyer has been on fire, averaging just over 110 yards per game in those 5 wins for Tech.
Dwyer getting close to 100 yards already in this first half as he breaks a tackle and breaks it into the end zone. He ran through the arms of Chris Marv.
Chris Marv was our impact player for Vanderbilt. He felt the impact right there as Dwyer lowered the helmet right into his chin. And again, missed tackles for this Vanderbilt defense. 3 of them already tonight. That will kill you when you're going against this triple option of Georgia Tech.
Another field goal for Scotty Blair, or an extra point, excuse me. And just like that, it's 28-14. Look at Dwyer laying the wood. So Georgia Tech turns a turnover into a quick score and a 2-touchdown lead.
Yeah, we know Vanderbilt could not afford to put themselves in situations where they're allowing Georgia Tech a short field. Mackenzie Adams did not do a very good job of having the ball securely tucked away on that carry, and then leads to Jonathan Dwyer's first touchdown of the night.
Boy, in the first quarter, Vandy really had things going their way with 7 first downs, and now here in the second quarter with Adams in at quarterback.
Yeah, you looked at how effective they were in the first quarter. The second quarter, 1 3 and out and 1 turnover, and that's going to make it a tough evening on this Vanderbilt defense.
Again, Norman is deep, and he takes that bouncer, and he may take it to the house. He blows by Scott Blair. Look out, Warren Norman, his 3rd kickoff return of the year. That's 80 yards.
Coming into tonight, Warren Norman had an opportunity to potentially break DJ Moore's return record for the Commodores. He's going to be awfully close by the time this one's over tonight.
Well, they pooched a kickoff. They kicked it high and short to Norman, and that time they really squibbed it down the middle, but he did a nice job fielding it cleanly. Fielded it almost in stride, Chris, and I'm not sure anybody even touched him.
The reason they go with that little squib kick is to try to throw the timing of the blocking off, but you saw the Georgia Tech defenders not very disciplined. They got out of their lanes and opened up a big gap for Warren Norman. Back-to-back games, we've seen him go for a touchdown against South Carolina this week and got the Commodores back in it tonight with that big return for a touchdown there.
Well, if they were playing in the backyard, 2-hand touch, he would have scored.
He would have scored 2-hand touch, 1-hand touch. Not very good execution by that Georgia Tech kickoff unit.
Boy, talk about needing a score, and Vandy got it with a sensational return by Warren Norman. Ryan Fowler will now kick it off for Vandy, and Embry Peoples is deep. There you see number 24 along with Orwin Smith. Peoples had a gap and then puts 2 hands on that football and just works his way forward for a return of 17. Let's see if the Vandy defense can somehow figure out this juggernaut, which is Georgia Tech offense.
Very efficient, as Georgia Tech usually is tonight. They go on those drives, and more times than not, they don't have to settle for a field goal. They put it into the end zone. 28 points already in this first half, and they're not done yet.
Here's Allen's first carry of the night. Puts his head down and gets thrown backwards. Picked up 1, they'll spot it where the forward progress was.
Nice play by Broderick Stewart there. Broderick Stewart is one of the best players on this Vanderbilt defense. Tall, rangy, athletic guy. Did a good job of stringing it out to the sideline and allowing his comrades to come in and clean him up.
Allen getting more and more carries. We saw him at Mississippi State, was an integral part of that win. Nesbitt looking for Thomas, who was open, but perhaps he had to throw it a little early. We are live in Nashville, Tennessee, Vanderbilt Stadium for this matchup between the ACC and Southeastern Conference. I'm Doug Bell, working alongside Chris Doring, the former Gator. Whenever we come to Vanderbilt, guy at the elevator always tells Chris, hey, I remember when. That's always nice, isn't it?
It's nice, except he brought up that Nebraska national championship game. I could have done without that.
Yeah, that wasn't too pleasant. Third down in the draw play. That'll put Dwyer over 100 yards for the night. Picks up 5. It'll be 4th down.
That's not where Georgia Tech likes to operate from. 3rd and 10. Not a whole lot of plays in their playbook for that, and they went with the sprint draw. Picked up 5, but they'll have to punt. Good opportunity. Good job by that Vanderbilt defense of continuing the momentum of that Warren Norman touchdown.
Chandler Anderson will punt for the 2nd time tonight. Alex Washington back at his 25-yard line. Fields it at the 30. Has some room. 33-yard punt. Quentin Sims on the tackle after a 4-yard return. There's a flag back at the 42-yard line. And that flag goes against Georgia Tech.
Correction. During the kick, there was holding by the receiving team, number 30. Post-scrimmage kick enforcement. Penalty be penalized 10 yards from the end of the kick. 1st down.
All right, the initial call was Georgia Tech, but he reversed it when he announced it. If you just joined us, here's what's happened tonight in Nashville as Georgia Tech and Vandy take a step outside their respective conferences. And Vandy took a 14-7 lead.
Yeah, Vandy looked good early. 2 touchdowns, led 14-7 after the 1st quarter, but Dwyer came back with a big run. Warren Norman answered for Vanderbilt on the ensuing kickoff. And you got to remember, this is Halloween night. Weird things seem to happen on Halloween. With Vanderbilt scoring over 21 points in the 1st half, that is certainly an aberration for the season.
Zach Stacy in their tailback. Here's the reverse. John Cole, first time he's touched the ball tonight. Gets knocked out of bounds. Picks up 9. There's the rushing yards. We knew Georgia Tech would dominate in that area. Time of possession getting to the point where it's a little lopsided.
It's a little lopsided with that 3 and out they went earlier, but I think that with this hurry-up offense that Vanderbilt runs, it's not too out of whack.
Adams completes a pass for a 1st down to John Cole. Butler on the coverage.
John Cole, the redshirt freshman, the coaches really like what he does on offense. I think they talked about getting him more involved, getting him more touches. You saw back-to-back plays on the reverse and on the hitch to set up another 1st down for Vanderbilt.
Cole is a Kentucky kid, and as we spent time with Charlie Fisher, the passing game coordinator yesterday, boy, he was complimentary of Cole and excited about the future working with him. That's a big gaping hole. Look out. It's going to be a touchdown, Zach Stacy. His 2nd touchdown of the night. That's 62 yards.
How about this pair of freshmen? Vanderbilt, we've seen Warren Norman score tonight. Zach Stacy with a touchdown earlier. Georgia Tech had a lot of guys crowding the line, and once Stacy broke through the initial line of scrimmage, nobody to stop him.
And the kick by Ryan Fowler is good, and we're all tied up after Georgia Tech had taken that 28-14 lead. But two scintillating runs by the freshmen, Warren Norman on the kickoff return, and then Zach Stacy, and we're all tied up.
As good as this Georgia Tech offense is, the Georgia Tech defense has been very spotty at times. Nice run by the freshman again for a second touchdown of the night. Back and forth little seesaw game we got here, 28-28, 3 minutes left. We got time for 2 or 3 more touchdowns.
Well, the freshmen are putting on a show. We told you about Zach Stacy and Warren Norman. And just when it appeared that Georgia Tech had really taken control of this football game, and Mackenzie Adams was having some trouble with turnovers, we're all tied up.
This Vanderbilt offense has not been a particularly big play offense this year, but we've seen big throw and catch earlier. Zach Stacy made a man miss to set up the first touchdown, and there the big run to tie things up for the Commodores.
Fowler boots it high and short, fielded at the 11 by Peoples. Gets hemmed up around the 22, possibly the 23, a 12-yard return. So Vandy answers with that 3-play, 79-yard drive, including a 62-yard sprint by Zach Stacy.
You feel the momentum shift back to the Vanderbilt sideline, but with Josh Nesbitt running this triple option offense for Georgia Tech, what you'll see them do is take some of that momentum away. If they can get a couple first downs, it'll be tough.
Jonathan Dwyer has gone over 100 yards in this first half. Now has 106 yards. And Dwyer, I do believe, by the time his senior year rolls around and when all is said and done, barring injuries, I think he will be the all-time leading rusher in Georgia Tech history. Right now, 7th on the list. With 4 games remaining, a bowl game. Nesbitt gets hemmed up, but then still moves forward for 3, possibly 4 yards. Jonathan Dwyer admittedly did not play well against Miami, got knocked around in their only loss of the season. And the coaching staff, his head coach got on him, but he has responded in a big way, coming off a huge season when he was the ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, came in as the preseason ACC Player of the Year again this year. Had an injury issue in the second half of the Miami game, but since that time has been unstoppable for Georgia Tech.
Third down, Nesbitt gets the first down. TJ Greenstone on the stop for Vandy after the 3-yard pickup. That'll stop the clock momentarily as they move the chains. Paul Johnson urging his team to get it going as time ticks away now. Moving in on 1:20 to play before halftime. Nesbitt to his favorite receiver, Thomas. Coming up at halftime, we'll check out the traditions that are Vandy football. Chris will take a closer look at this triple option, and I wonder why more schools don't run it. And we'll check all the scores and highlights from around the Southeastern Conference.
This triple option very effective for about 28 of the 30 minutes in the half, but when you're in a 2-minute situation, not particularly built to pick up big yards and be as efficient as stopping the clock as you'd like in those situations.
And the draw to Dwyer. And it has been a good night for the All-American, an 8-yard pickup. Young man from Marietta, Georgia, and what a junior class they have when you consider Nesbitt is a junior and Dwyer. And defensively, you have Derek Morgan, Ebunaway, the two defensive ends. Of course, Demarius Thomas, also a junior.
Anthony Allen, the transfer from Louisville. What a contribution he's made to this offense this year. He's averaging over 10 yards per carry for Georgia Tech. How dangerous is that? Kind of that four-headed monster out there. You got Nesbitt, you got Dwyer, you got Anthony Allen, and then on the outside, Demarius Thomas. Very tough to defend with the number of athletes that they have that can make big plays for this offense.
Scott Blair's longest field goal this season, by the way, is 36 yards, and we were down in the field, Chris, watching him, and certainly not the strongest of legs, at least watching him, maybe 45 yards or so. Anything outside of that is really pushing his range.
Interesting situation for Georgia Tech here. 3rd down and short. You know, they got to pick up the 1st down. They don't want to have to punt it back to Vanderbilt's offense. But again, we're talking about 25 yards they need to get or so before they can even think about being in field goal range.
61 seconds remaining in the second quarter in Nashville. Back to Dwyer, who gets the 1st down. Marv in there for the stop, and Marv took a shot on that last touchdown by Dwyer. It's almost like a boxing match. Those two guys are giving each other some pretty good shots tonight, back and forth.
Probably two of the best players on the teams tonight for each of them.
Nesbitt looks long, has a man open, and overshoots him on the outside. Quentin Sims had a step or two on the defensive back.
Quentin Sims playing in place of the true freshman Stephen Hill, who's out with an illness. Nesbitt does a good job of letting it go. But Sims needs to do a better job of fading to it, holding that cornerback off and leaving room to have the quarterback drop it in. Eddie Foster, decent coverage for Vanderbilt.
Foster breathing heavy. Going stride for stride, but actually had gotten beaten. Nesbitt with lots of room to run or pass, and has his man, Demarius Thomas. Did the ball bounce? Thomas says he caught it cleanly, and of course Vanderbilt's defense are calling for the bounce.
It looked like a clean catch, didn't it?
Look at Paul Johnson. He's saying he caught the ball and is urging them to watch the replay on the scoreboard.
Looks like he got his hands underneath it there. This is one that have a pretty good chance of seeing overturned.
Ooh, the tip of the ball did hit the turf. I think that's going to be incomplete.
You know I'm going to side on the side of the receivers here in most of these situations, right?
I mean, it was a good grab, but I do think the point of the football, the tip of it, hit the green stuff. And so they will review this play up top with 34 seconds remaining before halftime. One more look, Chris. Watch the tip of the football. Did it hit the ground? Right there.
I think he has his hand underneath it, though. I think, you know, you got control underneath with the hand and the body squeezing it. If the ball touches after you have control, it's a completion. I don't know if there's indisputable visual evidence, has become the popular term in college football, to overturn that, but
this just might tell us right now as we slow it down. I can't tell if his right hand is underneath the tip of the ball or not.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough proof for them to overturn that play. So I think we're looking at 3rd and 10 for Georgia Tech back at about the 45-yard line. But you saw Nesbitt back-to-back plays with 2 pretty impressive throws, and that's one thing that the coaching staff said. They'd like to be able to throw the ball a little bit more, but just don't have the confidence in the offensive line.
So again, the call on the field will stand. It'll be incomplete. That was the call, and Paul Johnson felt he caught it. So the review went to the booth. And again, you at home, as you watch the replays, that's what the replay official was looking at as well. Fed from our truck as you look at third down conversions now. 52% of the season for Georgia Tech, and that ball gets knocked down. TJ Greenstone, who has been big in this first half for the Commodores.
Nice play by Greenstone. They had something set up. Should they have caught that pass on the screen? Nice play to knock it down. See Dwyer sell the block and slide out. Got a lot of guys downfield blocking for him if he can make that catch, but nice play again there.
Personal fouls on both teams. Personal foul, number 5, Vanderbilt. Personal foul, number 70, Georgia Tech. Those fouls will cancel. It's 4th down.
So personal foul on Joseph Gilbert of Georgia Tech and Myron Lewis of Vanderbilt, so those will offset. And it'll be 4th and 10 with 30 seconds to go.
Vanderbilt's defense has done a nice job here in the second half of the second quarter. After giving up back-to-back touchdown drives, they've tightened up a little bit.
Alex Washington back to receive this punt from Chandler Anderson. Timeout for Georgia Tech, and they're out of timeouts. Again, coming up at halftime, we'll talk about those Vandy traditions, the freshmen run on among them, but maybe something you haven't heard of. That's coming up at half, and we'll break down this triple option of Georgia Tech. Florida runs a version of it, but this is unique really to Georgia Tech, and what a wild one on the loveliest village on the plains today as Auburn resurrects their season. Boy, they were in a short fall, having lost 3 in a row.
A 3-game streak there where they looked like they couldn't do anything on offense. Chris Todd has been much maligned, but looked good today.
So now we're ready. Anderson kicks that one out of bounds. It'll be a short punt, but they did not want to give Vandy an opportunity to return it. Might have been a little shorter than they'd hoped, only 24 yards on the kick.
If I'm Bobby Johnson right here, I don't do anything to set myself up for failure as I'm going into half here. 28 all with the number 11 team in the country. Go in there and regroup. I think they get the ball coming out of the second half as well, so I would look for Vanderbilt to keep it very conservative here.
Johnson versus Johnson. They've gone against each other quite a few times. Back when Bobby was head coach at Furman and Paul was at Georgia Southern. And then when Paul was at Navy, the midshipman beat Vandy twice. And Mackenzie Adams in the relief role, filling in for Larry Smith, who pulled out a hamstring in the first quarter, has helped his Commodores tie the 11th ranked team in the country. Chris, surprised?
Very surprised. You know, I thought that Vanderbilt did an excellent job with the things that they haven't done well, and that's third down conversions and being more efficient in the red zone. 2 trips to the red zone tonight, 2 touchdowns. So I very pleased with where Vanderbilt has done to this point. Georgia Tech got some work to do.
It's been an exciting Halloween night in Nashville. The second half should be terribly exciting. Much more coming up at the half. Looking forward to the start of the third quarter. We're all tied up as we look at the many highlights that happened in that first half. It was exciting stuff, Chris.
Yeah, it was a great first half for Vanderbilt. Georgia Tech got on the board first. Josh Nesbitt getting into the end zone for his first of 2 touchdowns in that first quarter. You see Nesbitt again getting into the end zone. And then the passing game, you're not well known for Georgia Tech, but Demaryius Thomas, one of the best receivers in the country.
Jonathan Dwyer, 117 yards in the first half, along with that touchdown. And then here comes Vandy. Larry Smith threw that first touchdown pass to Warren Norman. Then he goes out with a hamstring pull, but look out for the freshman. Zach Stacy dives for the score.
This first half has been all about the 2 true freshman running backs for Vanderbilt. Warren Norman, you saw him receiving 1 touchdown, and here the big touchdown return off a kickoff. What a momentum builder that was for Vanderbilt. They closed a 14-point gap to go into the locker room, knotted up at 28.
And only for the second time in SEC history has a man returned 3 kickoffs for touchdowns in one season. Willie Gall, the only other player to do that, did it in 1980 for the Volunteers. And now Warren Norman has tied the great sprinter Willie Gall. Norman goes down at the 24. That was an 18-yard return for the exciting young freshman. As you look at the numbers in that first half, Chris, what sticks out?
Well, I think certainly you got to look at the time of possession, very skewed to Georgia Tech.
And time of possession clearly on the side of the Yellow Jackets, not a surprise.
But the big plays for Vanderbilt have kept them in this. Vanderbilt has got to do a better job of holding on to the ball. The offense has to move the chains, allow their defense to get some rest, because you can't count on those big kickoff returns and big running plays to get you through this entire game.
Block in the back has set Vandy back, nullifying that return. And Norman goes backwards as well. Logan Wells gets in there for Georgia Tech.
Norman came into this game leading the SEC in all-purpose yards at 158 yards per game. Already tonight at 146. And not done yet. I look for Warren Norman to continue to have a big game for the Commodores.
Adams straight back. Finds his tight end in the flat. Barden is pushed out of bounds. That picks up 5. It'll bring up 3rd down.
Barden getting a lot of opportunities tonight. Austin Monahan, the other tight end, he was the 4th leading receiver for the Commodores. Lost for the season with a knee injury. That's the 2nd season in a row that Monahan has missed the rest of the year due to injury.
3rd down and a long 3 for the Commodore. Adams over the middle, has his tight end. Again, Barden for the 1st down. He rifled it in there. That's a gain of 14.
Nice throw and catch by McKenzie and Barden. McKenzie does a good job stepping up in the pocket, delivering a strike on the in route by the tight end. Nice hands by the big man.
Adams quickly to the outside, threw it low at the heels of Alex Washington. Again, the Commodores with only 1 victory at home this season. That was the opener against Western Carolina. They have yet to win a conference game, 0-5, but tonight would certainly be the highlight of the year if they could pull this off. This would be a stunner. Well, that was right in the hands of Udom Uma.
Those are the plays that have killed Vanderbilt's offense this year. So many opportunities they've had times. These young receivers have had opportunities to make plays, and back-to-back, we've seen 2 drops in a row. They have got to hang on to those throws. 3rd and long is not one of Vanderbilt's strong suits.
See Adams licking those fingers just like a baseball pitcher on this cold night in Nashville. Has time. And that ball's batted in the air, could be picked off. No, it's caught by Vandy. What a bounce. Udom Uma comes up with it, down to the 21.
I will give him a pass. He made up for the drop, came back and made a big play, albeit not the intended receiver on the play. Brad Jefferson, the linebacker for Georgia Tech, gets the deflection, but right to Udom. Makes a good play stepping in front, giving Vanderbilt ball inside the 25.
And on the left side, putting his head down, is Warren Norman. Picks up 3.
Doug, that's the 5th big play for Vanderbilt's offense of over 20 yards tonight. Vanderbilt has not been a big play offense prior to this, so it's nice to see them converting on some of those opportunities.
Second down, Mackenzie Adams at quarterback for the Commodores. Good blocking over the right side, and it appears that Warren Norman has gotten the first down. Riley Lauer with a terrific block at right tackle for the Commodores. That is a first down. Commodores starting this third quarter in hopes of taking the lead. Got a fortuitous bounce on that last pass, and Norman falls backwards and then tries to stretch the ball forwards. Derek Morgan on the stop for the Yellow Jackets. If you just joined us, Larry Smith, sophomore quarterback, first quarter, pulls up with that left hamstring injury in the very first quarter after a 26-yard run. He went to the sidelines and into the locker room and has not been back. And so Mackenzie Adams, the senior relief ace, he's their Mariano Rivera. That's what they think of him here in Nashville. Fires it to the outside. And that's Norman, who was doing it receiving, running, returning kicks. Picks up 4.
Doug, the red zone has not been Vanderbilt's strong suit this season, coming in only converting on 64% of their opportunities, but tonight 2 for 2 already. They got a big third down here to see if they can extend this drive or possibly get into the end zone.
Norman goes nowhere. Picks up a yard. Brad Jefferson and Burnett, Julian Burnett, they swallowed him up.
Georgia Tech stacked the box that time. Played man coverage on the outside, brought some pressure on the inside. Vanderbilt has to settle for the field goal attempt.
Bobby Johnson and Paul Johnson. This is the 9th time they've matched wits on the sidelines. 23-yard field goal attempt for Ryan Fowler. And it's good. And the Commodores are back on top. Once down by 14 points, they've roared back. This was the play on third down. Adams, the deflection, and Uba was there. The Commodores have stormed back in their home stadium in Nashville, 31-28 over the 11th ranked team in the country. It's Johnson and Johnson, Bobby and Paul, very familiar with each other. Not close friends, but certainly friends who respect the jobs that they've done wherever they've been, whether it's Georgia Southern or Furman, Navy or Vandy.
You got that feeling from talking to both of them this week. They have great respect, obviously a lot of history, and the timeline there kind of eerily similar in the transition from the FBS, or from the FCS to the FBS.
Here's what Johnson and Johnson has done. Paul leads 6-2. Those 2 victories when he was at Navy, knocking off Vandy. The others were in the lower division, but high quality football. Georgia Southern and Furman. Good return by Peoples. That goes for 33 yards and gives the Yellow Jackets terrific field position on their first possession of the third quarter.
I think Georgia Tech obviously needs to get something going here on offense. They've been very inconsistent, a little bit different than what we're used to seeing from this Georgia Tech offense. Obviously, Dwyer's had a big afternoon or big evening to this point in time, 117 yards on the ground. We'll see if Vanderbilt can plug up that dive play a little bit.
Nesbitt certainly in control of this offense in the first half, and Dwyer was absolutely huge. 14 carries, 117 yards. And there goes Dwyer tacking on even more. That's a big one. That is a really big one. He's off to the races, brought down from behind at the 22-yard line. Boys, 2 missed tackles on that run, but he's such a hard man to bring down. Hayward and Stewart had him in the sights. That goes for 40 yards, Chris.
Georgia Tech gets a lot of guys out front. Nesbitt does a good job of eating up the field between the end and himself. And Dwyer, again, as he's done all night long, picks up big yardage against this Vanderbilt defense.
First and 10. Dwyer moves forward this time over the left side. Picks up 7. An undersized offensive line. Brad Sellers is the left tackle, 255 pounds. Unheard of in big-time college football. Converted tight end. But he gets the job done. Sellers at left tackle, Gilbert at left guard, Bedford. A terrific story at center. Howard and Barrick is that offensive line. Undersized, but boy, they're perfect for this offense. Preston Lyons gives Dwyer a breather. Sean Bedford, junior from Gainesville, Georgia, the aerospace.
Gainesville, Florida, man.
Gainesville, Florida. Sorry.
He lives right down the street from me in Gainesville.
Aerospace engineering major. I didn't think they were that smart from where you're from.
He clearly got all of the smart stuff, because while you and I were taking broadcasting classes back in school, look at this guy's fall schedule. He's got fixed wing, senior design, jet and rocket propulsion, high-speed aerodynamics, and flight dynamics. That fixed wing senior design, he's actually working on designing airplanes as part of the sub-defense. I don't even understand what they're doing. The guy's smart, all right?
So you didn't take any of the classes he's taking, is that what you're saying?
I was taking writing for mass media, production classes. This guy is actually doing something that matters.
Well, that writing for mass media was a tough one, let me tell you. And that should give him the first down as Nesbitt keeps it. Smotherman on the bottom of the pile. Gets the tackle for Vandy, but not before another first down.
How do you find time to do anything socially when you're playing football and taking those kind of classes? Doesn't seem like something that you get an opportunity to get away from much.
Well, I think the social stuff happens later in life when you're making
Is that what it is?
a lot of money. Nesbitt puts his head down and winds up inside the 5-yard line, gets a little turf in the face mask. Picks up 7.
Nesbitt does a good job of following his blockers, letting those guys get out in front and pick up some of the Vanderbilt defenders. And this is, again, where Vanderbilt's defense has struggled inside the red zone. They're giving up a lot of touchdowns.
They can still get a first down without scoring. Nesbitt goes behind Dwyer, loses the football. Commodores say they have it. Still no signal as they clear the pile. And it is Commodores football. John Stokes came up with a loose ball. He was on the bottom of the pile. Greg Billinger caused that fumble.
What a huge play right there. Josh Nesbitt tries to follow Dwyer up into the hole. Billinger does a good job of stripping the football loose. And what a play. That's exactly what this Vanderbilt defense needed to do. The momentum had clearly shifted back to Georgia Tech's side. And they create the turnover.
So Paul Johnson watches. That's the first turnover of the night for his Yellow Jackets. Happens inside the 5-yard line. Commodores and Zach Stacy get a little room there. Picks up 3.
The turnover very uncharacteristic for this Paul Johnson coach Georgia Tech offense. He talks about the importance of not having negative plays. Negative plays includes turnovers, but also taking sacks, taking negative gains in the rushing department as well. You don't see that an awful lot.
Going nowhere is Zach Stacy. Like he loses a yard. Ben Anderson busts through there for a nice stop. The turf is soft. It rained hard yesterday in Nashville. Last night it poured down in this area. So the turf is a little damp. We were down there earlier. Adams from his own end zone hurls it to the outside. Derek Morgan put some heavy heat on him. So that'll bring up 4th down in a punting situation for the Commodores.
Vanderbilt's got to be aware. Gerard Tarrant already returned 2 for touchdowns this season, including an 85-yard return against Clemson earlier in the year. It's only his 2nd attempt of the night.
Brett Upson about 2 yards from the back line. Boots it away. Georgia Tech lets that go out of bounds. So it'll be just a 36-yard punt. And again, Georgia Tech will have excellent field position right at the 40-yard line of the Commodores. So Vandy gets that turnover, but they can't do anything with it. They lose about 35 yards on the exchange. Doors still lead by 3. A cold night in Nashville, Tennessee, but lots of action on the field as Vandy tries for this upset of Georgia Tech, who we talked about at the beginning. I really believe, Chris, as we broke down tape on so many teams this week, I thought they were the best one-loss team in the country. And they've moved the ball up and down, but they haven't taken control of the game yet.
You kind of get that feeling that it's going to break at some point in time. All this pent-up scoring for Georgia Tech just haven't got there yet.
Great fake to Dwyer, and the pitch to the outside Peoples. Chris Marv nearly took his head off. Marv now has 11 tackles tonight. Leads Vandy in tackles. Here's what's happened. Dwyer's had a huge night. Look at him run over Marv. 165 yards tonight for Dwyer so far. That put him up 28-14. And then the big momentum swing.
Yeah, the ensuing kickoff, Warren Norman takes his 3rd kickoff for the Commodores to the house on the season. And then the big play by the fellow freshman, Zach Stacy, to tie things up at 28 as they went into the locker room.
Nesbitt keeps it himself and gets close to the 1st down. Again, Marv, another tackle for the Commodores. Marv is a tackling machine.
Chris Marv leads the team coming into the night with 72 tackles. He's already close to double digits, if not more. 12 on the night already. Coaching staff said he was going to have to play big for this Vanderbilt defense. He's done it for the most part this evening.
Custer on the sideline comes up hobbling. 3rd and short, and that should give him the 1st down, and it does. Picks up 3. Look at Paul Johnson. Had a chance to sit in his office last year at Georgia Tech, and what a relaxed man. You almost sense you're talking to Andy Griffith. You know, the old Andy Griffith show.
Very laid back when he's outside the field, but very intense on that sideline.
Nesbitt with the pitch. Oh boy, they had that defense perfectly. Dwyer went down hard. Casey Hayward came up. That's a loss of 4.
Best way to defend against this triple option is by getting penetration. Casey Hayward and the rest of that Vanderbilt defense does a good job of disrupting the mesh points. Mesh points and those transition points, the reads that Nesbitt has to make. When you muddle those up for the quarterback, it's tough on this triple option offense.
Anthony Allen missed a block that time, and they quickly took him out of the game. Nesbitt, first pass of the second half, complete. Demarius Thomas picks up 12.
What a great luxury it is to have Demarius Thomas out there. Again, they don't like to throw the ball an awful lot, but you get it in his neighborhood. He's got big, strong hands. And again, taking advantage of Myron Lewis there on the coverage.
Third and about a yard and a half. There's the quick pitch back and a first down. Roddy Jones picks up 5. Again, another tackle by Marr of his Yellow Jackets. Look to score here without another turnover. Remember, they were inside the 5-yard line on their last drive when they coughed it up.
Yeah, that play right there, the little toss sweep, is what makes this offense so dangerous. They lull you to sleep with the triple option and then come back with the toss sweep to get the first down.
Getting very close to their average on the season. Dwyer spins off a tackle and just keeps those legs churning, picks up 5. That toss sweep, as we talked to Bobby Johnson yesterday, Chris, we asked him what's the difference in Paul's offense now when you face him in Navy. He said in Navy they didn't have that toss sweep.
Yeah, he says that he's evolved quite a bit, not only with the toss sweep, but the multiple sets and the motions that they run. Again, it's a very intricate offense that obviously he's been working on for a number of years, but now they've compiled a lot of different aspects to make this offense even more dangerous.
2nd and 5. Nesbitt keeps it himself. Still got 3 yards out of that. John Stokes, who came up with that fumble on the last possession, pushed Nesbitt backwards.
Well, John Stokes, his story already been accepted for entrance into the Vanderbilt Medicine School here in 2011. Parents both went to Vanderbilt. You don't see these kind of football players in most other matchups across the country.
Pitch back. Jones trying to stretch to that marker. Sean Richardson just wouldn't let him get there. So it's 4th down and short.
Talked about that triple option that you saw. Broderick Stewart do a good job of forcing the pitch. And then Roddy Jones couldn't quite get to the corner there. Brings up 4th down for Georgia Tech.
Getting some noise now. This is the loudest Vanderbilt Stadium has been all night. 4th down and a yard. And we have all sorts of people jumping on both sides. Both sides pointing at the other guy. See, Nesbitt says it's on Vandy as we listen to Jeff Flanagan.
It's a dead ball, offside. The defense made contact. The penalty is half the distance to the goal. The yardage results in a first down.
You look at the penalty situation from this season to last season.
Vanderbilt traditionally under Bobby Johnson has been one of the fewest penalized teams in the entire SEC. This year, that number is up pretty significantly. Bobby Johnson not happy about that.
Dwyer lines up right behind Nesbitt, takes the handoff, and steamrolls into the end zone for another touchdown, his second of the night.
What a tough job it is to try to tackle Dwyer. You see him get that handoff inside on the dive over and over again, just eats away at the Vanderbilt defense and then culminates with the big touchdown. As you mentioned, Doug, the second of the evening for him.
And the Yellow Jackets retake the lead. The extra point is good by Scott Blair. And it's 35-31. It's a runaway freight train. It's Jonathan Dwyer. Jonathan Dwyer is the big man on campus so far tonight. 169 yards on 19 carries, 2 touchdowns. He's putting on a show.
Yeah, he's done a good job tonight, obviously picking up the tough yards on the inside, but been able to break a few long runs as well. That's what makes him so dangerous. He's a big, strong, physical guy, but very athletic as well.
Scott Blair gives Warren Norman another opportunity. Already one kickoff return tonight. Oops. And he slipped up on that wet turf, only a 12-yard return. Look out for number 21. Oh, man, what a punishing runner he is.
Big, strong, physical guy. Can run over you. Can run around you. Has done it all for this Georgia Tech offense tonight, setting a season high for himself. 2 touchdowns to put Georgia Tech up 35-31.
That is a season and career high for Jonathan Dwyer. I like that yards per carry, 8.9. And on the reverse is Jamie Graham. Loose football, and it's Yellow Jackets. They recover it.
You saw Jamie Graham come around for his second carry tonight on the reverse. More times than not, when you see a guy fighting for extra yardage, bouncing off a few tackles, that's when turnovers occur. The ball security very poor right there as he went in to the traffic zone. Second turnover that they've put Vanderbilt's defense in a tough position tonight.
The misdirection has Vandy going the wrong way. Right. Excuse me, Jones gets inside the 5. 16 yards on the pickup. That misdirection, boy, that was pretty.
Yeah, that again, the misdirection is the killer for defenses trying to defend this triple option. Get you going one way, flowing, trying to play your assignments on that front side, and then Jones slips through on the misdirection on the backside.
First and goal from the 3.5. And Dwyer shoots through his 3rd touchdown of the night. Just like that, Georgia Tech up by 10.
This guy has been very impressive this evening. Again, we talked about Paul Johnson earlier in the season, saying that this guy needed to play with a little greater effort and sense of urgency. He has had that sense of urgency tonight with career and season highs, rushing on the ground, and his 3rd touchdown to put Georgia Tech up.
It's now an 11-point cushion as the 3rd quarter is winding down, just 14 seconds remaining. And remember, Yellow Jacket fans, you can watch an encore presentation of this game and every Tech game Tuesdays, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, 9 Eastern and 8 Central on CSS. Tune in to CSS all year long for college football replays of your favorite team in the SEC and ACC. That's Tuesdays. It has been a season of firsts for Georgia Tech. Their first win in Tallahassee. First win in Charlottesville last week in 19 years. And the first home win against the top 5 team, Virginia Tech, in 47 years.
We asked Paul Johnson about keeping his guys focused with all of these firsts that they're accomplishing. That's what he expects, though. He lets his guys, you guys haven't done anything special. That's what I expect out of you guys. And certainly, I think these guys, the transition that they made from last year to this year, they're going to be winning a lot more football games like this.
Georgia Tech has run 64 plays to Vanderbilt's 41. They've racked up 422 yards of total offense. Another pitching wedge kickoff. Norman fields it at the 18. Oh, he takes a shot right in the solar plexus. Mia Thomas delivered a heck of a blow.
Mackenzie Adams in this Vanderbilt offense has got to answer here in this situation. You got the feeling that things can get out of hand as Georgia Tech has scored 2 quick back-to-back touchdowns courtesy of the Jamie Graham turnover in their own 20-yard line.
This should be the last play of the third quarter. Again, Mackenzie Adams at quarterback in place of Larry Smith, who pulled a hamstring in the first quarter. Adams rifles it to the outside to Norman. What a versatile running back he is. Picks up 6. And that's the end of the third quarter. It has been an entertaining Halloween night. Lots of points between Tech and Vandy. It's been a festive Halloween in Nashville. Lots of points in this matchup between the ACC and SEC, and it takes us back on this day 50 years ago, the most famous play of them all. He needed some oxygen after that run. Billy Cannon, LSU knocking off Ole Miss on Halloween 50 years ago. Second down for the Commodores, trying to bounce back like they've done already once tonight, and they may do it on this play. The ball comes out, but it appears he was down after a 28-yard run by Warren Norman. Tackled high by Morgan Burnett. What a night for Warren Norman.
Very impressed with the way that Vanderbilt has been resilient. You get the feeling that this game is starting to get away from them, and then they get a big play from Warren Norman there, as they did earlier. Warren Norman brought him back with a big kickoff return. Zach Stacey had the long run, and a great contribution from the true freshman tonight.
Zach Stacey over the left side picks up 4. We showed you that great play of Billy Cannon. And in a moment, we're going to give you some great names on this Halloween night in college football.
All Halloween names?
Yep. Chris and our producer Steve Reich is busy coming up with that yesterday. Wait till you see these names. Flag down on the play as Stacey goes over the right side, gets close to the first down. Let's check the flag. Picked up 5. That's a hold that'll go against the Commodores. And Bobby Johnson
Holding.
watches, wants to know who.
66 offense, 10 yards, still second down.
All right, the all Halloween name team. Check these out. Jack Candy plays at Houston. Ben Casper from William & Mary. Of course, they have Graves and Grimm at Virginia Tech. Kruger at Tulane, and Boo at Wake Forest.
Yeah, we worked on that a long time last night. That's a lot of research there.
Well, you guys were going to great lengths to come up with that team. Getting back to the line of scrimmage, or at least the original line of scrimmage. Alex Washington, the receiving end, picks up 3. Another third down situation for the Doors as they try to work their way back in this, down by 11. Adams trying to set up that screen. Looking for Zach Stacy, but Derek Morgan blew that one up.
Tried to set the screen play up there, but the back got held up. As you see, Mackenzie Adams trying to buy time. Derek Morgan did a good job of sniffing that screen out, blowing that play up, and Vandy's gonna have to punt.
Tarrant is deep. Upson, a short kick that takes a Vandy bounce, but Tarrant fields it at the 11 and then hems forward. That was a 36-yard punt and just a 2-yard return. But the Yellow Jackets will be back on offense. It's a little chilly. A lot of folks having some fun in Nashville on this Halloween. Tech on top of Vandy. It's now 42-31. Our scoreboard doing weird things on Halloween. Of course, one-loss teams. We've mentioned tonight that we think Georgia Tech could possibly be the best one-loss team in the country. Those are the one-loss teams. Oregon beating USC, by the way, in their matchup tonight. Oklahoma State trails Texas. Penn State did beat Northwestern. Houston's already won today. What do you think, Chris? What about that argument?
I like Georgia Tech an awful lot. Again, this is the second time that we've seen them tonight. The one thing that I question about this team is their defense. We know they can do it on offense, but they've given up a lot of yards to Vanderbilt tonight on defense.
This big line splits again. Nesbitt wide open. And the connection. Peoples outruns everyone for an 87-yard touchdown.
It is so tough to defend against this Georgia Tech defense. The defense is so intent on stopping the triple option. You see the little dive fake, and then Nesbitt drops back and hits Peoples in perfect stride as he more than makes up for that drop earlier in the game. Peoples with the second big catch of the night.
Scott Blair for the extra point. He has been very busy, and Georgia Tech makes it 49-31. Josh Nesbitt now has 2 touchdowns on the ground and 2 through the air.
Again, Paul Johnson talked about wanting to throw the football more. Said Josh Nesbitt probably underrated as far as his passing ability go. But right now the offensive line not where he wants them to be. Thinks it needs to be shored up a little bit more. But again, right in stride there as Embry Peoples pulls it in with a big touchdown. And a lot of people talk about Georgia Tech's offense being 3 yards in a cloud of dust. In fact, they led the ACC heading into tonight with 11 plays of over 50 yards. You can add that to the list right there.
And don't forget Georgia Tech Sports Today with Coach Paul Johnson every Friday, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central on CSS. Wes Durham, the voice of the Yellow Jackets, hosts that show along with Paul Johnson. And Wes Durham was also the former voice of Vanderbilt. And we had a chance to talk to Wes tonight before the game. He remembered a game that you threw a touchdown pass against Vandy.
Pretty good memory there. He remembered exactly who I threw it to, throwing the touchdown back to our quarterback, Terry Dean.
Norman gets his hands on another one. Bust through. Uh-oh, loose football. Did Blair, the kicker, get it? He sure did. Scotty Blair made a tackle earlier tonight and now comes up with a loose football. What a night. It's not often the kicker has a tackle and a fumble recovery.
Yeah, normally they don't like to get their nose involved when there's a lot of guys around, but big hit right there to jar the ball loose from Warren Norman. Scotty Blair on the spot.
It's Halloween night in the Music City, Vanderbilt Stadium, and tonight this ACC-SEC matchup, and we're watching Georgia Tech put up huge numbers. Another pitch to the outside. Good tackle on Jonathan Dwyer. Going to make the stop, Casey Hayward. Still picked up 5 yards, lost a shoe.
See Dwyer acknowledge that nice tackle. Telling Hayward he did a pretty good job there, tripping him up.
Again, when you think you've stopped him, you look up and he's still gained 5 yards. Actually closer to 6 on that carry. Preston Lyons back in there now. Here they come, a little misdirection. Vandy does a nice job stringing out Roddy Jones. Chris Marv, another tackle. Georgia Tech fell behind 31-28, and then look out, Chris Doering, here they come.
Yeah, combined with the running of Jonathan Dwyer, certainly the turnovers have not helped Vanderbilt set Georgia Tech's offense up in good field position, and then right back with the big play as Peoples hauls in the long one to give Georgia Tech an 18-point lead.
12 plays of 50 or more yards. And again, as we talked to Coach Johnson this week, he said that's the biggest misconception, that we're not a big play offense. And the numbers dispel that rumor in a big way.
He almost took offense to that,
yeah.
didn't he? Very adamant about the fact that, look, you know, we are a triple option team, but we can score on big plays. I think they had 2 one-play drives against Florida State in a victory earlier in the season. We've seen them have big plays tonight in the passing game as well as the running game. So it's a very dynamic offense that presents a lot of matchup issues for defenses.
And again, different from the old wishbone, there's so many more variables. Formations, misdirection. There's Dwyer again, pumping those legs. Picks up 8. Now about 186 yards as he gets closer to his first 200-yard rushing game of his career.
Georgia Tech has dominated teams this year with time of possession, and tonight no different. Almost 32 minutes of possession to Vanderbilt's 18. That number will continue to grow as they grind it out here in the fourth quarter.
Lyons lines up behind Nesbitt. Again, they've run this play over and over again, and this one leads to Roddy Jones getting close to the goal line, but no signal. It is a touchdown.
How about that stable of running backs that Georgia Tech has? You see Dwyer carrying Georgia Tech on the ground. You saw Anthony Allen earlier. And then Roddy Jones comes back on the misdirection for another Georgia Tech touchdown. It's impressive how many athletes that they have at those 3 running back positions.
9:43 remains on the scoreboard, and it's now 56-31 Georgia Tech. Here they come. It's another touchdown, Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech builds their lead. Turnovers has been a big story all year for Vandy.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has put themselves in a tough situation time after time tonight. Graham turned the ball over inside their own 20, set up a Georgia Tech touchdown. Warren Norman on a kickoff return, gives it right back. And Georgia Tech, as a great team does, takes advantage of those turnovers. Big differential there. You look at the points off a turnover, 21 tonight off of those 3 turnovers that Vanderbilt has given up. And again, that's what a great team does, takes advantage of those opportunities.
Trey Wilson gets an opportunity. His first return of the night, and he goes down around the 16-yard line.
Doug, the more we see this Georgia Tech team, the more you kind of like, you know, it's not maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing offense to people that like to watch passing acrobatics and throwing the ball around, but they do a good job of mixing up the run and the pass, and certainly can put up some big numbers in the offensive categories.
Hey, SEC football fans, remember to tune in each week for a preview of the upcoming games on the weekend. From Mark Schleybaugh, Bob Neal, Tony Barnhart, Brady Ackerman, only on Talkin' Football, the SEC edition on CSS. Good show. Adams airs it out, and that's incomplete. Looking for Udom Uma. And Adams took a shot himself. Well, when you know a team is going to pass, look out, because Georgia Tech's got some pass rushers in Derek Morgan and Ibunaway. They'll tee off on you.
Yeah, we hadn't called Derek Morgan's name an awful lot tonight, but this is certainly a guy that we're going to see playing at the next level. 8.5 sacks on the year.
Adams on the carry now, close to a first down. Tried to stretch it out, and the chain gang had to drop the marker over there.
That's something we've missed a lot since Larry Smith left the game. You saw Larry Smith having some big pickups on the ground early in this one, ran the ball well against South Carolina last week, but Mackenzie Adams just has not had the same success on the ground that Larry Smith did early in the first quarter.
So 3rd and short. Vandy runs their version of the option. Goes for a first down. That looked like they stole a page from Georgia Tech on that one.
Why wouldn't you, after watching the success they've been having with it all night?
Kennard Reeves, his first carry, by the way, goes for 10 yards. Early in the game, first quarter, Larry Smith, after leading Vandy on a touchdown march, second possession, 26-yard run, pulled up on the sidelines, holding that left hamstring.
Has not returned. Haven't got the update on the extent of that injury, though.
Adams throws to Reeves on the swing pass, and that goes incomplete. Remember now, Vandy led 31-28 at the start of the third quarter.
Georgia Tech's defense has done a better job in the second half. If there's one Achilles heel to this team, it is that defense. They've tightened up here in the third and fourth quarters.
Adams, a dangerous pass that almost gets picked off by Cedric Griffin. Boy, he had it in his sights. He jumped in front of Brandon Barden. Again, the Yellow Jackets have scored 28 unanswered points. Jonathan Dwyer, 186 yards, and I think he probably is done for the evening. As Georgia Tech steams forward, 6 wins in a row. Certainly in control of their division in the ACC. Harden, the tight end, over the middle for a first down, but there's a flag back in the backfield. That'll be a hold against Vandy. That's 16 yards that'll be nullified.
10 yards, previous spot, still third down.
Again, mistakes killing Vanderbilt. Anytime they get something going, seems like they take one step forward, 2 steps back. Nice throw and catch here.
But
You saw the hold against Derek Morgan nullifies that big completion. Now Vanderbilt in another hole, 3rd and 20.
Adams straight back, airs it out down the field and overthrows everybody. Looking for Uma.
Not a whole lot of plays in your repertoire for 3rd and 20. That's a tough situation for any play caller to try to dial up something that'll work in that situation.
So Adams comes to the sideline somewhat dejected. And Paul Johnson, the beat goes on for this Georgia Tech football squad that stubbed their toe against Miami on a Thursday night. They played on Thursday 2 Thursdays in a row. As Tarrant gets thrown backwards, a 43-yard kick. But since then, they have been near perfect. Of course, the coach won't tell you that. He said, we still have a long way to go. Hey, don't miss Talkin' Football Sunday night, CSS. Get all the engaging discussions, in-depth analysis. It's Talkin' Football, Sundays 8 Eastern, 7 Central, only on CSS.
Nesbitt now out of the game. You got the backup Jabo Shaw in here, so shut the night down on Dwyer and Nesbitt.
And Preston Lyons carries it forward for 4 yards. Jabo Shaw in their quarterback. Young man who played some last season when Nesbitt got hurt. Jabo got hurt last year.
Jabo Shaw returned from the injury. Did a good job last year, though, filling in when Nesbitt was out.
Breaking tackles and running hard is Orwin Smith, freshman from Phoenix City, Alabama.
True freshman did a good job there of picking up the first down and staying in bounds. Keep the clock running. Let's get into the locker room, get a hot, warm shower, get this thing over with.
Even the backups are churning out the yardage.
Yeah, that's what this offense does. I think it's interchangeable. Whoever you put back there, they do such a good job of executing. You see a lot of success from a lot of different people.
J-ball tackled around the ankles by TJ Greenstone.
Last week against Virginia, Georgia Tech ran the ball 71 times in that football game. Held on to it for more than 42 minutes as they lead the country in time of possession. Have done very similar things tonight against Vanderbilt. Had a lot of success on the ground, already over the 300-yard mark. Time of possession approaching 40 minutes again.
Cutting back, getting some blocks. Orwin Smith tripped up. Picks up 4. John Stokes, who's been active tonight for Vandy, another tackle.
It's the longest 3-yard gain you'll ever see right there. Freshman did a good job of cutting back, did pick up a few blocks, but just couldn't quite outrun Stokes to the corner. There was nobody there if he gets around Stokes, but that'll bring up 3rd down here for Georgia Tech.
Shaw on 3rd down. And the quarterback draw. Gets close to the first down marker. Benoit on the stop for Vandy. And a timeout as they'll measure. He's very close.
What do you think after watching this game tonight? We talked about the one-loss teams. Where do you rank them?
I think they're the best one-loss team in the country. I really do. And I've watched a lot of Oregon, and they have been impressive. And their game with USC is not over yet. And I look at what's the schedule. It's a challenging schedule. Wake Forest, Duke, much improved. Georgia. I think they're going to run the table.
Yeah,
and I think they're the best team in the ACC.
They have an impressive schedule within the conference. They step outside of conference against 3 SEC opponents. We saw them earlier against Mississippi State, here tonight against Vandy, and then they finish against Georgia. So I'm pretty impressed with the schedule that they play and the way that they've handled that schedule to this point.
As we look at the schedule now, it lies ahead for Georgia Tech. It's the Demon Deacons at Duke and Georgia. I really don't see Georgia Tech losing any of those games. And Chris, as we've talked about, any deficiency that they have defensively is covered up by this ball control offense that just eats up the clock, and the other team doesn't get a lot of possessions.
They eat up the clock, but what's even more important is they score touchdowns. 8 touchdowns tonight for this Georgia Tech offense. And when you're not able to get the ball back and you're not able to force field goals, it makes you have to be very perfect on offense. And not a lot of teams can be as precise as this Georgia Tech team can be on offense.
And the offensive line, again, Paul Johnson feels they need to play better. I think when you're against a big, fast defensive front like they faced LSU in the bowl game last year, that causes them problems. But I don't foresee them facing that kind of defensive line until perhaps they get to a BCS bowl game.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's quite as fast in the ACC. But as you mentioned, have some trouble against some of those fast, athletic teams that can play sideline to sideline and string out that triple option.
Again, it'll be interesting to see. I do believe they will be in the ACC championship game. Who will they play? Perhaps Clemson?
I think Clemson probably would be the best ball game. Wake Forest lost today to Miami earlier, gave up a lead there late. But I think Clemson would probably be the matchup of choice if I had my druthers.
And that would be a rematch. And the pitch back. Orland Smith, tackled by Brannon.
You mentioned that earlier game against Clemson. We talked to Paul Johnson, really only about 6 quarters that he's been unhappy with. That second half of the Clemson game when they gave up the big lead that they had built early, and then the game against Miami. And again, I don't think that they were making excuses, but they had a 3-game stretch in 12 days culminating with that Miami loss, and it just felt like the players' legs were dead after all of the hitting, and took a toll on those guys.
Shaw scrambles for a first down. And if you're doing some channel surfing tonight, here's what's happened for Georgia Tech. Jonathan Dwyer, a career high tonight. 186 yards.
3 touchdowns for the big fella tonight. But it hadn't just been Dwyer. The rushing game, so important in this offense, but when you get intent on stopping that triple option, getting up there and run supporting, they can beat you over the top, as Embry Peoples hauled in the long one to put Georgia Tech up big.
And there's your game summary, but think of this now. They've run 80 plays, Georgia Tech, 80 plays for a total of 600 yards. I mean, that's staggering. 407 on the ground.
That's ridiculous. 600 yards is a season for a lot of teams.
I mean, tell me, when you and the Gators were doing the fun and gun, how many 600-yard games did you have?
Oh, that was routine. Now let's don't get carried away. But Now, very impressive the way that that Georgia Tech has done it offensively tonight.
They have put on a show. Jonathan Dwyer and company. Paul Johnson and his team on a roll right now. Very, very impressive. We saw him 3 weeks ago dismantle Mississippi State, another Southeastern Conference team in Starkville. And they have dismantled this Vandy team tonight. As we look at the ACC standings, top 4 teams in each division. And Clemson controls their own fate. If they win out, they're going to play Georgia Tech in the ACC title game.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the game that the ACC hopes to see. Clemson travels very well. Georgia Tech here represented well tonight in Nashville. But again, I don't know if there's anybody in the ACC that can keep up with this Georgia Tech offense.
They are on a roll. It's fun to watch. They came in tonight second in the country, only behind Nevada in rush offense. And those numbers will only escalate with 407 on the ground. And look at the time of possession.
Yeah, that's fairly impressive. I believe they're close to 40 minutes again tonight for the, what, 4th time this season? You don't see that kind of dominance from week to week very often as far as time of possession goes. Georgia Tech did a great job against early adversity, but battled back and rose to the occasion as great teams do.
Mutual respect between Johnson and Johnson. You saw Bobby Johnson tell Paul, hey, you guys are really good. And in talking to Bobby this week, I mean, you sensed that what Paul Johnson has done to tweak this offense, the additions, the formations, the misdirection, the toss sweep, wow, they're getting better and better.
Yeah, the dynamics of this offense, it's not just the triple option. They'll come back, they'll hit you with a little midline, a little counter, a little toss sweep, multiple sets, multiple motions. Makes it very hard for a defensive coordinator to draw up to defend.
Nesbitt threw for 193 yards. Let's not forget that. Remember, CSS has more live action than ever before, including teams from the Sun Belt, CUSA, Gulf South Conference, and the Southeastern Conference. Visit css-sports.com for complete game schedules. What a Halloween night it has been, the 50-year anniversary of the Billy Cannon run. And we watched an explosive game between 2 teams, and then in the end, Georgia Tech showed us why I think they're the best one-loss team in the country. Our final score, 56-31. For Chris Doring and our entire SEC football crew, I'm Doug Bell. We'll say so long from Nashville, Tennessee. Stay tuned for Fight Sports Boxing, all right here on CSS. Jonathan Dwyer and the Yellow Jackets flex their muscles tonight, and Paul Johnson has his team headed for what could be an ACC title.